Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. Your order is up, Mr. Anderson.
No way.
It seems that you've been living two lives. One life, you're Thomas A. Anderson, vegetarian for a respectable amount of weeks except Friday when you eat chicken. You have a social security number, pay your taxes, and you help your landlady carry out her garbage. The other life is lived in an underground hot dog eating circuit, where you go by the eater alias Ito and are guilty of virtually every vegan crime we have a law for. One of these lives has a future, and the other, indigestion.
Wow. It's like, you know me.
As you can see, Mr. Anderson, we've been watching you for some time now.
Wow. You mean since, when I walked into the restaurant?
We are a part of a supreme vegan anti-meat coalition. SVAMP. We're working on it. We're willing to wipe the slate clean, give you a fresh start. All that we're asking in return is that your cooperation in bringing a known meat terrorist to justice.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good deal. But I think I might have a better one. How about I give you the finger, and you give me my sandwich?
That'll be $5.69, Mr. Anderson.
No way! 69! Wow! This is JPar, and this is the We Promise Nothing show. This week on the show, we have Clay and we have Taboo. But before we get things started, the music you're listening to right now has been brought to you by SoundsLikeAnEarful.com. If you need great music for your podcast, check them out. SoundsLikeAnEarful.com. Now, this week we are reviewing The Matrix. That's right, that old 1999 flick directed by the Wachowski brothers. But before we get into that, say hello to the crowd, everybody.
Hey, it's the Claytrix.
Hey, Dabu here, guys.
Claytorius Rex is back, and Dabu is here, and we are here to talk about The Matrix.
You guys aren't going to introduce yourselves as the J-Trix and the Day-Trix?
The
really?
Day-Trix, ugh. I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that.
Okay, whatever,
Wow.
you know. I thought it was funny.
I'm not like I got nothing for you.
The J-Trix.
Anyways, yes, we're reviewing The Matrix, 1999, rated R, directed by the Wachowskis, and stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, Joe Pantoliano, and others. So basically, it's a sci-fi flick, but it's a different kind of sci-fi flick. It's a thinker, plus it's an effects extravaganza. It was a genre-bending movie for its time. So I'm just going to read a few little facts off. Woo Ping-yoon initially refused to work on the film and hoped that by asking for an exorbitant fee, it would turn off the Wachowskis. It didn't. He next formulated what he considered an impossible request. He said that he'd agree only if he had complete control of the fights and that he trained the actors for 4 months before they shoot. The Wachowskis complied with this request. Can you please look up Woo Ping-yoon and tell me what his background is? I meant to do this earlier. So we're doing a little fact check here on Woo Ping-yoon and see what his background is. Obviously, it has something to do with the fight choreography in this.
It's actually Yuan Wu Ping.
Okay. Well, could you read the facts there tell me what he does?
Okay, he's a Chinese martial artist, choreographer, and fight director, film director, known as one of the most successful and influential figures in the world of Hong Kong action cinema. He is one of the inductees into the Avenue of Stars in Hong Kong. Yuan is also the son of Yuan Siu Tuan, a renowned martial arts film director. This is coming straight from Wikipedia, so
Also, my facts and trivia is brought to you by IMDb. So that's who he is. And Carrie Ann Moss twisted her ankle while shooting one of her scenes, but decided not to tell anyone until after filming, so they wouldn't recast her. And I don't know if you noticed, but all scenes that take place within the Matrix have a green tint, as if watching them through a computer monitor. While scenes in the real world have a blue tint.
I never noticed that, actually.
Blue was also used at a minimum in the Matrix scenes, since the directors thought blue was more of a real-world color, despite ironically blue being the least often occurring color in nature.
Huh.
It's the sky.
Swinging a miss.
And only the sky.
The fight scene between Morpheus and Neo, which is neither in the real world nor in the Matrix, is tinted yellow. In the first 45 minutes of the film, Neo has 80 lines. 44 of these lines are questions. Just over half of this total dialogue, averaging at roughly one question per minute. Wow. In the combat training program, before Keanu Reeves starts his furious attacks on Morpheus, he rubs his nose with his thumb and finger, a similar mannerism of Bruce Lee. Before he attacked on his opponents. The move was improvised by Reeves. Keanu.
That's cool, actually.
That is cool. I noticed that too, because I think I said that. He was like, he was doing like a Jeet Kune Do style. Well,
yeah.
He was like...
Well, he says he knows Kung Fu, so I think Jeet Kune Do is
Kung Fu.
Or it's not Kung Fu, it's Wing Chun, isn't it?
Well, he knows martial arts, I guess.
Jeet Kune Do.
I don't know what he knows, though. Look at it.
It's
Fact check!
Yeah,
It's a nice nod to, to clearly our own history.
All right, and for the cell phone conversation scene between Neo and Morpheus in the Metacortex office, Keanu Reeves actually climbed up the window without a stuntman, which was 34 floors up. In Greek mythology, Morpheus is the god of dreams. Somewhat ironic considering Morpheus' role is to awaken people from their dream states to reality. In 2012, Matrix was selected by the U.S. Library of Congress for preservation in National Film Registry Archive. And when Belinda McClory auditioned for the role of Switch, she was only going for half the role. The character was originally planned to be played by the androgynous actors. In the real world, it would be played by a male actor. And in The Matrix, be represented in a female form, hence the name Switch. Warner Brothers refined the idea, and McClory ended up getting a single female role in both environments. Interesting. Once again, this comes from IMDb, so I'm not sure if that's a real thing that happened, but I'm just getting my facts and trivia from there. And I got two more for you. So that's interesting considering the Wachowski brothers are now the Wachowski sisters. By the middle of 2002, the famous quote-unquote bullet time sequence had been spoofed in over 20 different movies. So showing that Matrix 20... my voice went high-pitched there. Just showing the influence the Matrix had at the time. One more. Lawrence Fishburne stated that once he had read the script, he did not understand why other people found it confusing. However, he had a doubt if the movie would ever be made because it was so quote-unquote smart. And those are your facts and trivia brought to you by IMDb. I'm going to start with you this time, Dabu. How did The Matrix impact you when you first saw this movie?
Oh God, where can I begin? Well, I mean, let's face it. This is one of those, like you had called it, it was a thinker, right? This is a movie you really had to pay attention. It does a lot of some of my more favorite of facts when it came to approaching a movie, and when it comes to, if not time travel, in this case, it's kind of alternate realities, right? You know, it's just this fact that we don't see as a human society this possibility that we're part of a bigger world, one that we can't see, right? It's on another layer that we can't, consciously tap into. The Matrix kind of creates more of a visual of what would happen if the world came to be where, humans were completely controlled by robots. So it's a different perspective. So I love the fact that they did something new with it. My only gripe is kind of what happened afterwards. It's like you had said, culturally, it was almost like you had seen it everywhere. This movie literally created a ripple amongst how people would see not only how movies were made, but just how stories were being told as well. You know, this alternate reality concept, I'm starting to see it everywhere. I mean, even Inception, I think, was one that kind of did it in a different way.
The Matrix inside the Matrix inside the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this idea that it's this layer upon layer effect, where if you're not paying attention, there's something else going on the other layer. But I don't know. There's quite a few things I could say this thing would have done in my life. But I don't want to ramble on, so I'll let you guys go.
All right. When I saw this, it kind of blew my mind, this movie. Not only the cool stuff that they say in it, there's so many like great quotes from this movie. A great performance by Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. The crazy fight scenes, even the whole movie just has like a crazy art style to it. It's just a different way of making a movie and a different way about thinking about a movie, showing that, a cool action movie can also make you think and bring you outside the box. This was something that really tried something different. When I walked away from it, I'm like, that was a really cool one-off movie, and that's what I thought. And then, I don't know, when I heard they were making sequels to this, I didn't know it was such a great idea. But anyways, for the first movie, I was super impressed when I first saw it. And Clay?
Yeah, I remember when The Matrix came out, none of my friends would tell me what exactly The Matrix was, which made it really cool, and I didn't get a chance to... I didn't have access to the internet at that time, like really reliably. So what I did was I just waited until I actually got a chance to see the movie, and it was cool because watching the movie was like discovering The Matrix, and then after you watch the movie, it was like, I wonder, like, is something like that possible?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like going back to kids today will never know what it's like to live without cell phones. There will never be a world now for me without that different reality, that Matrix question in there, What if it's all just a dream? What if it's all just a program? What if it's all, what if there's something bigger that we can't see? And, that movie was just, it had a massive, massive impact on all the movies around it. Like you said, like it was, the bullet time thing was ripped off by 20 other movies at the time. And it's all anybody was talking about. It was just a huge, huge movie, and it was excellent.
Yeah, just like fight choreography alone was ripped off in so many movies. I think of Mission Impossible 2. I think of like Charlie's Angels. I even think of like the spoof movies like Scary Movie and other ones. I'm sure there's many, many others. We were just talking about X-Men the other day, and you can't say it's not influenced by that.
Yeah.
The floaty matrix effects, I believe I referenced it as. Yeah, this movie inspired so many movies. It was one of those odd movies that just came out of nowhere, and once you saw it, it was like, that was really cool. Like, that was the new level of cool, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably been, I don't know, 99 was a good year for movies, apparently. Mm-hmm. And this was one of them. And it was a thinker, too. It was like a reflection of our time, and it kind of turned, like, our own reality on its ear. It's like, well, what if it was all a machine, Like, what if we really were inside the Matrix? And that's what it starts making you think. And then while you're thinking about it, you're seeing all these cool, like, slow down kind of effects. Like I said, it's an effects extravaganza, great fight choreography, just something new, like inspired by anime almost. And you can almost see it, actually, if you kind of like put it side by side with certain scenes that anime, some of the scenes that they did. So, I don't know, did you guys want to give this a rating?
Ooh, I don't know. You have a number in mind there, Clayton?
In the headspace of my 18, 19-year-old self when the movie actually came out, I tried
18?
to...
What? Did you say 18?
It was like 18 or 19, however.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to put myself back in that headspace and recall what it was like when the movie actually was released. I'm going to give this a 4. Because this movie was excellent, and barring obviously the 2 sequels, which we're not going to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, this movie as a standalone, as its own movie, was an excellent movie. It was well told. You had to pay attention, and you had to follow everything that was happening. And upon repeat viewings, there was a lot more to find out. You could look at it, watch it again, and see deeper things in it, and start thinking about the meanings behind seemingly inconsequential stuff the first time you watched it. So it was awesome to see in theaters, and then when you watched it on DVD after, there was more to see, even though you're watching the same thing again. Excellent movie.
All right, so solid 4, and Boo?
Honestly, I was going to give it a 4 as well. It was very much that movie that I felt like I could always go back to. If I can easily say that, it just makes it easily at the top of the rating. But I just love the fact that this one is, again, like you had said, there's always an extra layer to it that you can kind of peel away. You can pick at it every time you want and see it from so many different perspectives that you can have arguments of every different sort if you want, really. But again, I just love the fact that it does everything for me quite well. It's a great science fiction story. It holds its own. It has a whole other layer to it that, unfortunately, with the next 2 movies following, don't quite do so well. They had so much potential to do so many different things with it. But in my opinion, the first movie, in this case, there did the best at introducing us, again, the concept to the Matrix, which in itself is the selling idea.
It's a cool concept.
And this idea that we've had this potential protector amongst us all this time, and I feel like they always pull away an anti-hero. In this case, happened to be Neo. Keanu, I think at the time, ended up almost being typecast, I felt like, afterwards, though, because of his role in The Matrix. Mm-hmm. So it was odd to see him in other work afterwards.
Like he wasn't typecasted before as Ted from Bill and Ted?
Yeah, in some ways. For me, I didn't really know the Bill and Ted movies as well as you guys might have. I never really watched them.
Whoa.
I watched them when I was an adult.
he did, before The Matrix, though, he was getting into science fiction because he did do Johnny Mnemonic.
Yes.
Remember Johnny Mnemonic?
And that wasn't bad. He had the same Matrix-like character, though, about him. So I feel like that's part of the reason why I didn't like what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure there was other ones that I just can't think of right now. Johnny Mnemonic instantly jumps to mind.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the only reason why I'm going to say I've given it a 4, guys, was, again, because it holds its own. My only gripe might have been because of how I've seen how it's affected us culturally after all those years after we had seen the movie. For me, was a negative. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why the first movie can only hold its own so far. It's what came afterwards, which kind of ruined for me the rest of the effect of what this movie introduced. Mm-hmm.
So, I've been fighting back and forth. I've been fighting back and forth on what I want to give this. I really honestly want to give it a 4. I want to give it credit because it is such an influential movie. And it really is quite a different movie. I can't... I'd like to say there's other movies that aren't like it. I mean, they tried to make a sequel out of this, and then a third. They tried to make it a trilogy, like a Star Wars or Back to the Future thing, and it just didn't work. That's a part of his weakness, and I'm trying to rate this without... I'm trying to rate it without rating it based on those other 2 movies. I'm going to stick with a 4. Because I think about the rewatchability, and when I think about if I was going to give it a 4.5, then it'd have to be something I would watch more. I'm not saying that I haven't watched this movie enough. It's just that it doesn't have the same charm as some of my old classics, I guess. But Matrix is definitely a brilliant film, and it's a thinker, and it's even a great action flick, which you can't say very much about action flicks back in the day. So it just makes you think. Morpheus has a lot of cool quotes. So it's even a very quotable movie. And just even artistic style. It's just interesting to look at. So yeah, I'll give it a 4, but it's a very solid 4. It's definitely a movie you should go see.
And I'll be quite honest, if anyone has not seen The Matrix by now, they really should. Because it's certainly an idea I feel like everyone should be introduced to at least once. Just get to get that whole brain blood flowing, But I feel like this is one of those movies that rarely, it's like you said, it's an action movie in one, but at the same time makes you think on a whole other level. I love when movies do that to me. That's more of an honest surprise, right?
And when you watch it too, try to remember that all of the spoofing and all of the rip-offs and everybody who copies that bullet time and those type of action sequences and stuff.
The slow-down fight sequence.
The Matrix did it first.
Yeah, exactly.
And when it came out, nobody else had done that. That was the actual first.
Yeah, it's definitely paying a nod to them, if anything else. The fact that so many people want to copy your idea, that's a good thing, right?
All right, so let's jump into Spoiler Town. And we're going to talk about our best and our worst, and this is where we get to dig into The Matrix. It doesn't sound like we're going to have too many complaints, but there must be a reason why I didn't get a perfect score. Dabu, did you want to start us off? What is your favorite and least favorite of The Matrix?
Oh, I had a hard time saying that the entire time throughout the movie. My favorite. God.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one.
It really is. You know what? There's about 2 or 3 scenes that really stand out in my mind. Oh wow. Why is that so hard? Okay, you know what? I'll keep it simple. You know what? Yeah. Go to
All right, Clay. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to come out swinging on this one, and I'm probably going to steal the big one. But when Neo stands up after being shot and after being killed and rejects the bullets and then stops the bullets in midair and then grabs the bullet and looks at it and then looks at Agent Smith, before all of the bullets dropping in the hallway. And then Smith gives him that look like, I have been in total control of the Matrix since forever, and this guy just blew my fucking mind. Like,
literally.
Yeah, and then he goes on to fuck him up. But that scene, just where he stands up and he stops the bullets, grabs it, and looks at it, and then just looks at them, it was like, just...
I know, I kind of got chills.
Amazing,
When I watched it again, I kind of got
standing
chills.
up right now. It just...
See, it's kind of the reason why I feel like that scene alone was enough to say, okay, that's it, one movie done. We don't need 2 more. I would have loved if he just stopped
He
right
is
there.
the Messiah, and he is risen.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you need. It's a good one-thinking movie.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not that surprising of an ending to say, okay, here's your hero, but he's also like the savior in some fashion. But I loved how they would have ended on that note. It would have made it so much better.
I agree. So what's your least favorite part about The Matrix?
The part where they made Reloaded and Revolutions.
Yeah, well, what's your least favorite part about that movie? Nuts.
Of the actual Matrix itself. Oh God, I don't know. I really like the fight choreography, but I felt a little bit cringy every time somebody did a backflip after being knocked backwards in this movie. Like you can't see the wires, but I always knew that they were there, and I never really got that sense of velocity. Like they would get punched in the face and do a backflip through the air and then land on their feet, and that was just kind of I would have rather. Matrix. I know, but I would have much rather like a midair stop, like actually like they did in the later movies, and a la something like Dragon Ball. If they were going to do fight scenes where the guys get hit and then they stop. You mean the cartoon,
not the movie?
Yeah, and then they come back towards them. You know what I mean? So there's like this
the
pause,
dreaded Dragon Ball.
And then
movie.
there's not the Dragon Ball movie, the cartoon. But they get pushed back in the air and then they manage to stop themselves and then they just look back at them and you see the determination and they go racing back towards them again. I didn't really care for the backflips, but I mean that is such a minor gripe. Like that's a minor gripe, and there are holes, but there are holes in the plot, but they don't contribute to my least favorite part. Just that I was watching it the other day, and I was like, you know what? I just never really cared for that. But
all right. I think my favorite. I'm going to take over since you missed your opportunity.
I'm curious to see what you guys say.
Because I've actually thought of mine now that I've had time to think about it. I think I like the stuff that Morpheus says. I like all that cool stuff that kind of makes you think, or even just like there is no spoon, like all the stuff that makes you think in this movie. I like all those cool quotes. It makes you think about life differently. When Morpheus is sitting down with Neo, it's like, this whole time there's something wrong with this world. You can't quite explain it, but you've known this the whole time. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but just all that kind of, that kind of stuff that he says, it's all kind of cool. It's that really brings it out. So I'll say that. So it has like its own style and its own way of thinking. So that's really neat about it. What I don't like is the forced kind of love relationship with Trinity and Neo. I found like they kind of said like he was the one, he had the power already, but it seemed like for some reason he just needed that one piece and whatever. I don't know why, but it's like Trinity's the one piece. Like why is she the one that did it? I almost thought it would have been a better story if Trinity thought like she was the one and then she went with the Oracle and kind of told her like she wasn't, and maybe that was more of a reason for her being kind of bitchy to Neo, or that's what it seemed like to me anyways. She was like all bitchy to him, and then at the end she's like, wait, I don't hate him, I love him. And it's like, and then suddenly he's the one.
You did catch on to that, did you? I was trying to tell you at the time, though, I feel like at that moment that you're describing was when she was trying to tell him,
you can't.
What was it? You cannot not be the one.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why? and she couldn't speak. The reason why is she couldn't just blatantly say, because the Oracle told me that I would be in love with the one, which was what she had been told. You don't find that out until, I think, the second movie, I think.
You know, and if you think, I think that's true, too.
Or more importantly, she says it at the end of this one. What am I saying? You know, when he's actually under and she's trying to call him back, he's get up just before your favorite scene happens.
Yeah, right? The interesting thing, too, is the Oracle actually fills a pretty big role in that the things that she directly tells Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity all directly work into each other. Yeah, that was really well put together. I really like that.
That actress actually passed away during the making of these films. Now, did she pass away after the first one, or
after the second one? I think.
Well, I think they had, if I'm not...
And her name was Gloria Foster.
I'm not mistaken. I think she was filming some of the scenes for the second movie, and then she had passed on, so they had to redo those scenes with another woman.
Yeah.
She turned out to be good, I'll be honest. I believed her character.
They actually went so far as to reference that in the movie, actually.
Yeah, you're right. That there was a switch with the look of her, right? So that was actually kind of interesting. Sorry.
So I guess my favorite is that it just had a way of thinking, and it was original. That's my favorite part about it. The art style. From the art style to it's hard to pick one thing, like I said.
Know.
And then my least favorite, like I said, I feel the Trinity thing was a little forced near the end, just to force a kind of relationship between her and Neo. I felt like they could have developed that better instead of just you know what, fuck it, I love him now. You know, that's why I was like that the whole time. It's okay, I thought they could have did that a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys leave me with a whole lot more though, but all right. If I'm going to narrow it down, my favorite, honestly, I think what gave me the chills and honestly the perspective of how important Neo became within the story arc was the moment when, was it Mouse? Storms into the room and says, Neo's fighting Morpheus, and everyone's just all frantic. Okay, we gotta fucking see this. Yeah. Then I suddenly realized, what the hell's the fucking big deal? And I had to think, realize, Neo really is the one. So everyone's suddenly in that believable moment that if Morpheus believes, then they believe, and it becomes this strength. If they believe, then as the viewers, we should believe. Yeah. Instantly, you got a connection with the character, and it was perfect. And then instant fight scene, and then they had to fight it out in such a choreographed way that it was perfect. It was a blend of not only the I know kung fu part, but the fact that it was slowly Neo showing himself what he was capable of and what he was aware he was capable of. It was a build-up, right? You had to understand he wasn't just going to instantly gain all his powers. You had to suddenly realize them before doing them, right? I get it anyway.
And Morpheus had to instruct him while he was fighting him and remind him that he was already against his limitations.
Right.
He says, you think that's air you're breathing?
Yeah, suddenly realizing that he's got limitless potential between, exactly, his perspective. It had nothing to do with what he felt his body was physically capable of. There was no air he was breathing.
There's no limit.
There was no world they were living in, period. The whole point was that it was all in their mind kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you're smart, you get that, because you can see that he's winded, right? And he's he's taking deep breaths, you think that's air he's breathing, and then once you think about that in your mind, it's wait a minute. He's in a program. He doesn't need air. Yeah. And then once you realize that's what it is, you realize your abilities are limitless.
And the cool thing about that is that they teach Neo, it takes 10, he says something like, how long has Neo been training? Oh, it's been 10 hours. This guy's a machine. And he's taking all this information in. And when he goes into this training program in the Matrix, he knows Kung Fu. It's I just learned master level Kung Fu in 10 hours. And that's not even the limit. You think it's cool that you learn Kung Fu in 10 hours? Guess what? There's even more. Why are you breathing that air? Why are you gasping? Stop. You're faster than this. Stop trying to hit me and hit me. Neo has already imposed limits on himself.
Well, yeah, and it makes sense considering he was just learning what his abilities were, right? But you're right. It was almost he had to figure out a way to break that barrier. And then once he realized it, then it was he had to, it was almost where his creative side had kicked in and he could fucking do anything, right? Yeah. Now, here's the funny thing. It leads up to my gripe.
Okay.
How does the movie end? And then leading up to a really good song, by the way. But aside from that...
He's talking on the phone to...
He gets off the phone. Agents? He's talking to, I'm assuming, is...
agents or something?
Well, basically, those on the other side who are controlling
They trace
the
all
Matrix.
The phones.
Yeah, everyone who's listening in, right? So just realizing, okay, I'm here. No, okay. Anyway, the point is, what does he do right after the phone call, though?
He flies.
He flies away. So in my mind, I'm thinking, why is he only figuring it out now that he can fly when he could have used that so many times over in the previous moments to benefit?
Well, he does it
their
at
circumstances.
the end of the movie, sure, but I think it's even funnier because when does he use the flying again in the other movies? Not till the end.
Every other movie.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, well, in terms of the
I didn't
Matrix,
pay attention
because
to the
I
other
think he
movies.
just kind of, let's face it, he suddenly realized at the same time he doesn't need to breathe in the air.
Stop it.
Sorry, I'm smacking your computer now. He literally can actually do whatever he wants, but it's up to his imagination to take over. In this case, just flying. You know, the simple idea of leaping and you know, going wherever he wants. I just wanted to point out that because they ended the movie on that note, before knowing there was 2 more movies, I would have hated to know. I'm like, fuck, this guy could have flown the whole time, and only at the end of the movie does he figure this shit out. To me, that was a little bit of a, not a major gripe, just one of those gripes where I just kind of realized to this day it just kind of got to me. Mm-hmm. And again, I think the only negative that pulls me down every time really is a lot of what followed after the movie. I know it's not majorly the movie itself, but because it kind of became tacky, that idea of what the Matrix was and all the effects that kind of followed in the movie, and then all these other movies copied that, to me that was a bit of a negative. I wasn't impressed the fact that it was done so often. I didn't mind the occasional nod, but then it got way too obvious. And because of that, I think to all these years when I look back at the Matrix, I can't get beyond the 4, if that makes sense.
You know,
I want to give it a 4.5 out of 5 even because it was such a great movie when I remember when it first came out, and on to this day I feel like I'm just bringing it down because of what I've seen overly saturated into.
It's been copied way too many times, been satired too many times. Even the other movies, just the thought of like Matrix 2 and 3 kind of bring down the idea of the first one, because the first one was like this cool original idea, there was no other movie like it, and then it's kind of like it's got like this fresh original idea and this new way of thinking, and it kind of like, you know, brings forward like, you know, be original, do something new, you know, think outside the box. That's what it kind of pushes you to do. And then what does it do? It kind of becomes a mockery of itself because it makes a second and a third that's like totally trying to make a franchise off something. You know what I mean?
It feels like it's obligated to show you those same things because that's what everybody's come to expect from the first one.
Yeah,
They come back to it.
It doesn't become a new, fresh idea anymore because it just becomes a rehashed idea.
Because by the time you saw that, the second movie, it had already been aped by how many other movies and, you know, referenced how many times. One of the things actually that I found about the whole bullet time camera trick was after I watched the movie, there was one part that I didn't really understand why it was an illustration that Trinity was doing something odd, because at the beginning when she breaks into the building, she jumps up, she's fighting a guard, she jumps up into the air, she does her crane kick, she jumps up into the air, she jumps up, and the camera slows down, eventually stopping with her mid-air. And then the camera pans around, but the entire scene has stopped. The camera pans around using the bullet time idea, and then it picks up again, and the scene picks up again, and she kicks him in the face. Now, the reality of that scene is that nothing actually out of the ordinary happened. Your perspective changed, but the scene stopped, implying that she wasn't moving faster than the guard. She jumped up and kicked him in the face. The only thing that changed was the perspective of the camera.
Yeah, it's not like she's actually
just jumped
stopping.
Up and did it. Yeah, she didn't stop time.
She did do it. It's just the way that we perceive it, and that's like the art style that they chose to present the movie to you in. And you know, that's kind of like an anime effect.
Yeah, it was cool, but everybody's like, "Oh my god, that must be the Matrix." And I thought about it after, and I was like, "No, that's not really the Matrix, though. They didn't."
But him ducking the bullets, is the Matrix. Manipulating the Matrix.
The way that they shot that one, they make it look like it's hard to tell whether he's slowing down the bullets or he's moving really fast, because what is happening is he is moving faster than the bullets. But they never actually show you that, except when he's fighting Smith and you see him and his arms are going all blurry and stuff because he's fighting him so fast. But you're left to wonder what's actually going on when the agent shoots all the bullets at him and then he ducks and the bullets go whizzing past him. You know, it's like, well, is he slowing everything down or is time speeding up, or does it matter? Is it relative?
Well, the perspective changes the second we realize the bullet comes into the frame, because the bullet itself is the fastest moving item in the vicinity,
in the
right?
shot, yeah.
So when you know that thing's technically supposed to move so fast, you shouldn't even see it.
Yeah.
And you see Neo moving in such a way that he's reacting to the bullets as they're coming by, so you can see in real time the bullet, going by the body, so to speak. That, of course, that makes sense. I feel like you guys are right. It's not so much that they're slowing down time when Trinity or any of the other people are moving, but the second Neo moves, his motions start to change according to the fact. In this case, was that scene where he, I think, suddenly realized he could move faster. I don't know. He didn't realize it. Obviously, he just did it.
Yeah.
It was an instinct, I guess. But yeah, that's the whole point, I think, right? The whole slow bullet time was to create our perspective to be
as
seen
fast
under
as
one
Neo.
way. Yeah, to see that these people were still moving at our own pace. The camera was suddenly changing around, to give us that dynamic, right? Which is cool. That was the bullet time effect, right? Mm-hmm. But second Neo comes into the picture, well, he's technically supposed to move fast enough so that while everything else is moving slow, he can move fast. Yeah. Which is to emphasize he's faster, much faster than Neo.
Actually, the way that they shot that, slowing it down as opposed to speeding it up, I guess makes a lot more sense too, because it would look ridiculous if the agent shot the bullets and then Neo just went and just flipped down and back up at super speed. You wouldn't know really what happened. Like, well, were the bullets whizzing by him or
in real time?
Cinematic effect, right? Yeah. So it's less about the Matrix and more about the director's choice of camera shots.
All right, speaking of choices, let's talk about some of the casting choices in this. My personal favorite is actually Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. Clayton delivered some Hugo Weaving-esque lines in our skit at the beginning.
Very esque.
And then, of course, we also know Hugo Weaving from as Elrond in Lord of the Rings trilogy, and also The Hobbit as well, I suppose. And also know him as V in V for Vendetta, where he has some really cool lines where he gets to use that very charismatic voice of his. So he's my personal favorite. Even I gotta say something. I kind of like the villains in this better than the heroes to some degree. Even Cypher. I like that actor Joe Pantoliano. He's also in Memento. He plays Teddy. But him being you understand his motive as to why he wants to betray his friends to stay in the Matrix. That line he says, "Ignorance is bliss." You know what I mean? If you saw that shitty ass world where humans were used as batteries by machines, and they were treated as such, and just the world just looked like total ass, then you'd probably want to be sent back into the Matrix again too. You'd be like, fuck, this is what the world looks like? Fucking put me back in, plug me back in, I'll be a fucking battery, put me back into the Matrix. So you understand his motive. So, I mean, he's a very compelling character, I find, for that reason. And like I said, just Agent Smith, even though, Hugo Weaving's only playing a program in this, it's the way he delivers his lines, and especially that one at the end where it's I tried to understand your species, you know what I mean? And just that way of thinking. So I find that's kind of neat too, and like you said, it just goes together with a really great sci-fi story. Any particular performances that stood out for you aside for those, or?
Well, I'm with you on Hugo Weaving. I hadn't seen him, I don't think, in anything else before this, but I never forgot who he was afterwards, and I don't know. I don't have any illusions about the range of his acting. Yeah. But I like the way that he acts out his characters.
Exactly.
And Cypher, I was really torn on Cypher actually, because I get the feeling that Morpheus kind of explains to all the people that he's pulling out of the Matrix what's happening. He doesn't just go in there and say, look, I'm picking you and everything's hunky-dory on the outside. No, it's cool. Just take the red pill. You're going to come out with us. We're going to go out clubbing. It's pretty sweet outside of the Matrix. No, they know. He knows what's going on. And, I mean, if need be, Morpheus has the power we see with Neo to use visual aids to show them what it looks like outside. So the fact that Cypher comes out and after 5 years has decided, no, I want to go back in, I think that choice is a very real and very human way to deal with something like the reality of the world outside of the Matrix. Because, you can fight... Unless you're a noble-hearted person and you're fighting for the future of mankind, everybody's still going to die. You're like, well, why wouldn't I just spend my next 30 years just enjoying it? I mean, is it really that bad? We're in the Matrix. I mean, we get to live our lives and then we die. Is it really so bad? Why do we have to get out of here? What's the motivation to leave the Matrix? Why is it so bad? It's not like they mistreat us or anything. It's got to be better in the Matrix than it is out in the outside world.
It definitely looks like it, that's for sure. What do you think, Dabu?
Yeah. It's, well, what's the question?
Would you choose to go back into the Matrix? Or would you...
Oh, is that what the debate is here?
It's turned into that.
Well, honestly, I kind of feel like where you guys are touching on. I know Cypher's point of view. He's one of those antagonists you can easily sympathize with. He's got a very human point of view right now, right? Like he had said, it's if someone was in a position where they were given the option to blissfully just ignore what the reality was versus facing up to it and then trying to defend that.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, one's harder than the other, and I feel like any one of us easily could fall trap to, the temptations of saying, you know what, fuck it, I just want to go back to the dream. It just makes sense. I think this is probably one of the reasons why The Matrix, this movie in itself, brought up a topic that was not so often brought up. I think it was it almost has like a religious tone to it.
Well,
and it's obviously, even right down to the third movie.
It's like if you're a prisoner, but your prison is big enough and well equipped enough, are you really that concerned with getting out? The Wachowskis are stating that people don't want to live in any world that exists only within borders. People have the desire to be free, no matter how big the prison is. But I'm not sure that on a person-to-person basis, as Cypher shows, that's really the case. Some people would just choose to go back in.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be more selfish individuals that would do that.
I want you to read this quote from Agent Smith. It's at the end when he's talking to Morpheus. So this is something else why I think Agent Smith is also a more interesting character than some of the heroes in this. It's just his idea of how he views the human race. And don't forget, he's a program. He's a program in the Matrix, right? And with one sole purpose. So go ahead and read it in the Agent Smith voice.
I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species, and I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply until every natural resource is consumed, and the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You're a plague, and we are the cure.
And
that was fun.
That was, yes. Smith, his whole existence is based on not eradicating, but
keeping the peace.
Keeping the peace. So once he's done his job, then he can, put an end to his miserable life, which only has one purpose because it's a program, right? So he only serves one purpose, which is to fulfill his purpose. So when you think about that, it's like just more mindfuck kind of stuff in this movie, which makes it so fucking cool.
Yeah. To me, it's almost like the introduction of an AI on a different level. Because let's face it, he's a program within a program. Like the Matrix is one massive program. I just love the fact that it's taken another character that gives us another point of view that you would never see it from until he points it out himself. It's like that line that we just had you do. It's basically his point of view saying, listen, I don't like what I see and I want to join you guys almost.
Yeah.
But not in the sense that he wants to join the humans. He just wants to get the hell out of this.
He wants to be happy like the humans.
Yeah, he
has a purpose himself.
He realizes there's a boundary and he wants to get out. So, and it's like, I think what you had said, Jay, it brings up this natural instinct of wanting to be free.
Yeah.
So, of course, obviously, they're going to bring that up in different points of view, but I did not expect it to come from the program that's trying to keep, Mr. Anderson, in check, so to speak.
He's trying throughout the movie to understand why humans want to get out so bad. And I think he comes up with the idea that if they want to get out so bad and live in the real world, there must be something out there that's better than it is in here. Like, why would we want to stay in here? Well, what's out there? Because he's what is he, a subroutine or something? Like he's just a program, like a virus-seeking program, and he, you know what I mean? What's out there?
How ironic that...
and he's sentient, too, that they point out. He is actually sentient.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's what I mean. He became self-aware.
The agents have been around so long, they become sentient themselves, like the AI robots that are controlling the humans.
Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like it was almost like an introduction to a form of virus that came to Agent Smith that suddenly became the tie-in to him being the yin to Neo's yang by the end of the trilogy, anyway. But I do just simply love the fact that they took that one computer character. It was just basically the villain throughout the whole movie, and it turned out to be he could have possibly been one of the protagonists, almost. If you see it from his point of view. He just wants to get out just as much as the humans do. He just has no respect for the value of human life, and I think that's the downside to why we would see him. He would cause absolute chaos in a world amongst humans, let's face it. If he was let loose in the way he wanted to be let loose, nothing would have been left. He's not the kind of person you want in the real sense. But I just love the fact that they pushed that by the end of the first movie.
Well, going to this back to the Cypher question though, like the thing that I always wondered about Cypher, we know he wants to get back out, we know he wants to be put back into the Matrix, but the thing that always got me was how did he actually get in touch with Smith? Because when you go into the Matrix, you have to have somebody plug you in the chair, and then you go under, and then they run the routine. How do you go about?
I'm
getting
sure
into
he
the
could have
Matrix?
done it like another time when.
But they go so far to make sure that you have a handler. Like Tank and Dozer are the handlers,
Yeah,
right?
but
They
there was a
make
moment.
you go into the chair. They put the spike in your head. They put you under, and then they boot the Matrix or they boot the programs.
Right.
So how did Cypher actually get?
How
back
did
in?
Morpheus get a hold of
I
Neo?
know. Dude, I was just going to say, I know the scene.
He went in through the computers.
Yeah, exactly. So why couldn't a program do the same thing while Cypher was inside the
Do
Matrix?
you
Send
guys-
him a little message through computers or something.
That's true. But then how would he? Because the thing is that the screens are running. The monitors are presumably running. Anybody walking by would look at the monitor and see
They're not with
Cypher
them all the
sitting
time.
there
I'm sure
eating-
they're not always in there together.
I don't know. It seems
There was
do
a
you think?
scene in the movie that explains that, I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, okay.
It was the scene where Cypher was... I think he had the multiple monitors. It was the scene just before, all I see is brunette, blonde, and redhead.
Yes.
What was he doing before Neo walked into the room?
Watching
Dude,
Brazzers.
spanking it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
He was clearly doing something he was not supposed to because his reaction to
Yes.
Neo walking into the room was, "Hey!
Oh, okay.
Whoa!"
I never-
Suddenly it was just, shocked, right? So
Yeah.
clearly anyone who reacts like that to me
So
was
he made it
either...
seem like it
Yeah.
was porn, but he was actually...
Yeah, he was reacting to someone who shouldn't have been there, and Neo just kind of happened to stumble upon him. So for me, I feel like that was the scene where he must have been sending some kind of a message ahead of time.
I guess he could have
Before
sent
they
some
went
kind
into
of
Makes
the
sense.
Matrix.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
at that point, Neo didn't see it that way yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And he knew it because he's like, he's not the one. Pfft.
I feel kind of stupid now. I feel kind
But
of stupid that I brought that up. but-
Honestly, no,
It's all
it's
right.
a
It'd be
good
easy to
point.
miss.
They're subtle though. Like when you think about it, it was like a tie-in in another scene. For all I know, I could be wrong, but it's
All right.
just
One more question. How do you feel about Keanu Reeves playing this character at that time? I'm sure we're all okay with it now because he's done many great roles like John Wick, and we'll be seeing John Wick 2 soon. And before this, he was known as Ted in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. So, what are you thinking, Keanu Reeves going into this movie?
I've seen him in other work that I feel like I didn't mind him actually in roles more like this. What was the one movie I thought
Johnny
was...
Mnemonic or
no, that was a good one too. No, I think it was Sweet November. I think it was a weird
Oh,
romantic
yeah.
comedy anyway. But it
boy.
turned out to be a role that it made Keanu look like a complete dick.
nah?
Yeah. No,
But-
you know what I saw him in before that? The Devil's Advocate.
Oh,
That one was not bad,
yes.
though. I remember that one.
There
was
you
pretty
go.
good.
And it's funny with Keanu Reeves because it's like you forget that you like him. Because it's like he just comes
Yeah.
up with a great movie every once in a while. Like Bill and Ted, you're like, oh, that's a funny film, you know what I mean? And then you said Devil's Advocate. It's like when you think of that, and then he did Matrix, and even like Constantine isn't that bad. And then John Wick. So every once in a while, he just comes out with a pretty good movie.
I
And
would
it's like,
still- I
yeah,
still consider him an
Speed.
A-list actor.
Also Speed.
Yeah, Speed.
Hard Rain, I think, was another one. I remember him with. What was that other actor from?
What did Point Break?
With the sways.
Swayze.
Morgan Freeman. Yeah, it was Morgan Freeman and. God damn. We were talking.
Morgan Freeman and Keanu Reeves, really?
No, not Morgan. It was Keanu and Morgan Freeman. Yeah. Hard Rain. You guys never heard of that one? No.
No.
What's that movie about?
Oh God, it was.
Nah.
It wasn't one of his best. I'm just saying, like, it was one of his action
Remember
flicks.
that awful movie, guys? No, we
Other
don't.
movies.
Wonder why you guys haven't seen that one.
Just bringing it up. That's all.
All right. So, any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I need to actually address the elephant in the room.
What's that?
No.
It's just one point, and once you think about it, you might not think about the Matrix quite the same way.
Uh-oh.
Why Okay. Why did they choose to use humans? Because now, just follow along here. They chose to use humans and come up with the Matrix. Now, Morpheus in the movie incorrectly states that humans put off about 20,000 BTUs of energy per hour.
Did you find the real number?
I did. It's actually at rest. The human body puts out about 400. Now, by contrast, cattle, like a single cow, puts out 3,500 BTU an hour.
Oh, so you're saying they should use cattle instead.
Making it a much more... Yeah, and plus, hey, you don't have to come up with an idyllic computer program to keep cows happy because, hey, they're fucking cows. They don't give a shit. They're cows.
How about this? It's in the future. There's no more cows.
That's true. That's true. But things, these if they can find a way, to genetically breed humans in pods,
yeah,
they can come up with cows.
Maybe they couldn't find any cow DNA.
Maybe they could have had all the people just be vegetables. You know what I mean? Like, it just, from an efficiency standpoint, cows, you would need less cows, and they put off...
But maybe they need the brain activity, because the brain activity that we still dream, and it kind of gives off energy, right?
Cows still have brain activity. But the point is that
they're saying there's no cows
they're
there.
after the BTUs. They're after... So choose a larger life form, and just... Because then you don't have to worry about Keanu Reeves becoming Jesus and tearing down your entire Babylonian tower.
Because The Cowtrix isn't a good movie. That's why. The Cowtrix.
The Matrix starring cows, and it's just cows in a field. And the machines are all happy, and Keanu Reeves is nowhere to be found.
For some reason, I'm visualizing the cow level from Diablo.
And the other thing, too, is that they, why not put the people in a state
starring
further back?
Carrie Ann Moose.
Yeah. Why, you know what I mean, though? Why not make the Matrix a more primitive form? Because then people wouldn't be able to communicate.
Keanu Reeves.
People wouldn't be... You had to squeeze that in there, right?
Oh, stop it.
People wouldn't be able to communicate with phones. They wouldn't be able to physically interface with the outer of the Matrix.
Don't do it.
Do it.
Let's try. I couldn't think of another one.
Anyways, I thought it was a pretty valid point because the machines could have made things so much simpler for themselves, but they needlessly complicated their own existence by keeping humans around.
So, which means they're fallible, just like humans.
Yeah, I guess so. But they're pretty smart. I mean, they made some pretty cool... Those Sentinels are awesome.
I kind of feel like Jay might have hit a good note, though, had if down the road humans had gotten so overly developed technologically, I can visualize the whole planet having been consumed by every human life form available. So the whole planet's covered with the humans, right?
Yeah.
So the point is there's no cows. I feel like if we were to have cows, it would have probably been in very controlled amounts, in factories, where they're literally just breeding them for sheer meat. Well, I don't see the machines seeing the value in keeping that.
Right,
there's
exactly.
Humans everywhere.
They
literally collect all the humans and they just discard of the rest.
Also, if the machines are in control, then there would be no more cows because only the humans would keep them alive for the meat. And since machines wouldn't see value in meat,
and not to mention the humans would be the only threat to concern themselves with. So I don't feel like, unless it would have been that much easier to just wipe the face off.
You make a good point, but
once you start thinking about it, I mean, the possibilities are literally they're endless. You could go down any one of those rabbit holes, so to speak. You could take the red pill and go on any road you want to. But it just seemed like the machines could have made a much simpler.
I thought that was a cool reference to the Wonderland and the White Rabbit and Fall the White
Rabbit.
And
the other one too is the book that Neo keeps his computer programs in. I looked it up. It's called Simulacra and Simulation, and the book actually deals with
AI
symbols. No, it's by John Baudrillard, sorry, and it actually deals with the reality that we build for ourselves through symbolism and through social conscience and social convention, versus the world that actually exists behind that, the true world, It's all about symbolism versus reality. There's a reference in the book about, they use an example, this civilization creates a great map. The map is so big that it's actually the size of the civilization. And the map is in such great detail that as the civilization grows and shrinks, the map actually grows and shrinks with them. And once the civilization crumbles, all that's left is the map. So they're asking, what is reality? What is the level? What is your actual level of reality?
What are you perceiving? Are you
exactly.
perceiving?
Are you perceiving the truth, or are you actually seeing
Perceiving
the
just
truth?
someone's version of the truth.
You observing something is actually changing how you view it. You know what I mean? Like, are you seeing it as it actually exists, or are you seeing it how you?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I might be actually a little bit smarter after this episode.
Yeah, well, I actually, when I saw the scene, I actually just looked this up the other day. I saw the scene, and he grabs the book off the shelf, and he clearly shows the title. And then he opens it up, and he opens it up to the chapter on nihilism, which is the existence, believing in nothing. And they said actually that chapter doesn't show up in the book until the actual end of the book, but that for some reason they chose to put on nihilism, the chapter on nihilism, right when he opens the page to his thing. And the thing is that the book is about the perception between reality and the perceived reality, and contained within is Neo's work with computers, which actually is what leads Morpheus to him. So that book, while trying to decipher reality from fiction, actually brings Neo out of fiction and into reality by proxy. Isn't that interesting?
All right,
I
cool.
thought that was really neat.
All right, that's some cool facts. Do you got anything that tops that?
Like I said, my notes are extensive here.
Well, I kind of feel that's part of the reasons why this movie, brings up so many different discussions. I think it depends on how you want to talk about it, really. I think that's why when I brought up that religious tone, I think for me, that's the part that ruined it for me when you see the next two following movies where they took, the Neo character and suddenly give him this very Jesus-like kind of
There's
status.
definitely like a psychology or a philosophy.
Yeah.
I like that
like
they
there's a
alluded. I like that they alluded to the chosen or ordained one, but they didn't. They turned it into a part of the program.
There is a
later
kind
on.
of philosophy.
Well, they did. I just did. Here's my
Yeah.
only major gripe with the full story arc building up to the Neo character. When he suddenly becomes officially the savior is when he goes blind.
Yeah, that's true.
And the way he goes blind is quite violent. But now I'm suddenly realizing, this guy really just electrically had his eyes, shocked out. So nothing but black there, right? Okay, he can't see, but what do? They give him this effect where he can see everything in the Matrix. So everything's got like this three-dimensional look to it, but obviously through the Matrix coding.
Yeah.
It to me, it just got way too far-fetched.
I think it would have been more interesting if he actually would have been legitimately blind, and then somehow he would have found his way there. You know what I mean? The blind seer kind of thing, like Book of Eli. You know what I mean? He's blind. There's nothing on the pages. You actually can't see anything.
Yeah, that's
you know
cool.
what I mean? Like it was more interestingly presented.
I think we're almost out of time, though. Definitely great talking about the Matrix. I guess a little more serious tone this time, folks, because we're talking about philosophy, psychology of the Matrix, and religious ramifications and whatnot. So yeah, a great movie. Obviously one that you have to see. We made less jokes about this one and actually talked about the seriousness of this one, which just goes to show that it's a highly influential movie. Go check it out. So 4s all across is what we gave it. So don't forget, you can always follow the conversation at Twitter at We Promise Nothing, drop the G. You can give us a big ol' like on Facebook and check out our comments there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Tell a friend and leave a comment below. It doesn't matter what the comment is. Could be to say, I like the Matrix, I hate the Matrix. I don't know how you would spell that. Cause
I can say the Matrix.
yeah, I can say the Matrix. All right, this is JPar signing out.
Claytrix out.
Dabu gone bye-bye.
And if you disagree with anything you've heard here tonight on the show, you can leave a comment below. But, as always, we promise nothing. Good night.
Whoa.
69.